This panel will be actually moderated by someone new in the crowd, Tom Zuber, joined by Omri, Petr, and Karl. So take it away.
Thank you, Brenda. And on that note, I'd like to, I'm Tom Zuber, I'm the managing partner of Zuber Lawler. Hello, everyone. I'm Tom Zuber, I'm the managing partner of Zuber Lawler. We are based, headquartered in Los Angeles. We have attorneys throughout the country. We do work throughout the world. Lots of work with Global 1000s in the area of pharma, Silicon Valley tech, if you will, insurance, finance, and other aspects of the global economy. Also, we represent governments, including the federal government and municipalities. We are very focused on emerging industries, including longevity. I have a personal passion for longevity, and I will point out that part of my interest in moving the firm into this area so I can learn. We do a lot of work in pharma and biomedical devices and cannabis and psychedelics, for instance. But for me, to be able to learn from all of you is a very exciting prospect. I'd like to take a few minutes here to allow my colleagues to introduce themselves, a very exciting panel. And if we could start with Omri, and we'll just move down here. Omri, a few words about yourself and your company.
Sure. Great to be here. Can you hear me? Perfect. Omri, I'm a general partner at a fund called NFX in Silicon Valley. We manage $1.4 billion. Our sweet spot is $2 to $5 million checks. We're a general seed fund. 5 partners. I'm the partner focused on the intersection of biology and technology. And in that, my personal passion and a source of investment is longevity, where we invest in several very interesting longevity companies. And I'll be happy to talk about that.
Great. Thank you, Omri. And Peter.
Yeah, hi, I'm Petr Sramek. I'm managing partner of Longevity Tech Fund. Some of you already heard me yesterday, but for ones who are new this day, we are managing more than 40 portfolio companies, solely focused on longevity. It's a kind of a biotech, diagnostics, or platforms, but all of that is strongly longevity focused.
Thank you. And Karl.
I'm Karl Pfleger. I'm an investor. Obviously, I have also a portfolio that's exclusively aging and longevity focused, and actually specifically rejuvenation focused. And then I also run agingbiotech.info, which is a sort of one-stop nonprofit shop for disseminating information about the field.
Thank you, Karl. So this is the investor's perspective, the panel. And before we get started, can I get a show of hands here? How many of you are investors or with a fund or a company that looks for companies to invest in? Great. And how many are companies that are seeking funding right now? Thank you. Very good. Okay, so on that note, and thank you for that illustration of the audience interest, why is longevity an attractive sector for investment right now, to start with a bit of a leading question?
Well, first of all, I think it's the biggest market in the world, right? In investment, you talk a lot about CAC and LTV, customer acquisition cost and lifetime value. I think longevity is the L in LTV, is the lifetime in the lifetime value. The more your customer live, the bigger the market is. People talk about GLP-1s, and I say, look, some people are overweight. Everybody is going to die from aging. The market is way bigger. The impact is way bigger. Ask people how much they're willing to pay if they have a therapy that can get them back to 18. Almost everything, right? So the market is huge. The impact is huge. So that's why we're into it.
Very good. And I'd like to just start with the numbers and the money. Go ahead. Anyone else? Go ahead, Karl. Peter?
Do you want to?
Yeah. Oh, maybe, you all know about the... Okay, this one. You all know about AI, what's happening in AI. I have been in AI 10 years ago, and these days, seed startups founded by industry matadors are valued at billions of dollars. That's a record level in any industry ever. And considering what was happening 10 years ago, I kind of see this reminiscence with longevity, right? Because at that time, the investor interest was really low. It was really hard to find money. The recognition was like, is it going to fly, or is it going to be another AI, so-called AI winter? It's not, it's really short history. So I would compare longevity industry or the sector to AI, like, let's say 2 years before ChatGPT moment. So we are all waiting for that moment. and then we'll see, as you mentioned, the biggest industry in the world.
Yeah, I agree with both those things. And one of the reasons to know that there's an inflection point coming in this field is that just look at the fact that the majority of the public doesn't even understand that this field exists yet, doesn't even understand that aging can be interfered with. But that is clearly going to change. And the other reason that this is a great investment area, with more so than other areas of biotech, is and I mentioned this yesterday too, the geroscience paradigm. The whole point is that we're interfering with the biological processes that underlie multiple diseases. So the normal startup equation, lottery ticket type math, where it's a small chance of success and then you get a pot of gold, and that's a hard thing to judge. Well, in this field, you're going to get multiple pots of gold, and that's going to be better than the typical drug development gamble.
Thank you very much. I agree with everything that was said, and I think the basic, I think it can be summarized by saying that most folks in the world that have the financial means will be consumers in the longevity industry within a decade. I think that that's a fair approximation of things, but I think that that's what we're looking at, and it is in that sense very similar to AI in terms of, I think, the ultimate impact. So I think we are just south of an inflection moment myself. So getting to the point here quickly, we have some folks here that are looking for funds on behalf of their company. What distinguishes, and I'll direct this first to Omri, what distinguishes a compelling longevity investment opportunity from a not so compelling one?
Yeah, and I'll talk about myself and what I care. I care about things that move the needle, and I call it the plan A, B, C, and D for longevity. Plan D is death, and we're all on plan D. It doesn't matter how many rapamycin you take and how many drips you get and how well you sleep or eat. You are all on plan D. Plan D sucks. Plan C is cryonic. I personally am not in love in cryonics because it gives agency to other people, but some people believe it's the one thing we can do in our lifetime and our parents' lifetime, which is not understanding aging, but it's stopping aging, and hopefully somebody in the future can solve the problem. Plan B is bioengineering, so trying to understand the different diseases and one by one cure them. The problem with that approach is you need to solve everything, because otherwise you cure cancer to die from Alzheimer, you cure Alzheimer to die from something else. So until you solve everything, you don't really move the needle. And plan A, and the things that I'm most excited about, I call alternative bodies or replacement, where you don't have to understand aging. You just need to replace. If you find young, genetically identical replacement cells and tissue, you can just replace anything from your hematopoietic stem cells to tissues, and maybe in the future whole organs, etc. So we are looking for things that can really move the needle and push us not to just 120, but beyond.
Right. So what we are looking for are solutions working on first principles, right? So in our case, targeting aging at some root causes. I know it's not always so easy, so we need at least to understand these first principles, and then we can decide whether the level we intervene is the right one. I don't like particular solutions at the end of the maybe the end of the downstream, because they are so point focused and can easily fail. They are dependent on many other individual conditions. So the first principles, targeting aging.
Yeah, two main things for me. These both got mentioned yesterday as well. What is the mechanism and the target? And it has to target aging, and so you have to be able to see the relevance, the mechanism, the mechanistic way that it could possibly treat multiple age-related diseases. And the other thing I always look for is, what just happened that makes this the right time to translate the idea into a company and take it forward toward trials, instead of just continuing more academic science.
Very good. So let's talk about a related topic here, which is, the R&D in this space in particular can be lengthy, it can be very expensive. How do you balance the risk of that with the potentially outsized returns that are also on the table?
Well, you need to understand your business model, right? As a fund, we have a 10-year plus 2 years lifetime, right? So, and the venture industry works as a very sharp power law, where most of your investment at the early stage will not return anything, and a few will be massive returners. So we need You can only be a venture-backed company at the early stage if you can be a multi-billion-dollar in less than 10 years. Otherwise, the model doesn't work. So you either need to change investors over time to more patient, long-term capital like family offices or other sources of capital, or start later. So when your technology is more settled and the time to market is shorter.
Peter?
Right, so money and time, these are the two most scarce commodities for any startup, right? So we have, I would say, three strategies how to help with that. First, we create so-called synergistic portfolio. So the group of companies where they can actually cooperate with each other. Like the therapeutic company can leverage a platform, like delivery platform company or a diagnostic company, or they can join clinical trials, do something which can make it cheaper and faster. That's the first strategy. The second strategy is to enable or facilitate communication with third parties, like could be like a mid-sized pharma companies or large cosmetic companies, because they are approaching us and we are facilitating discussions. They can eventually do some contractual work with these companies. So help them, as a group. And the third strategy is kind of a very special way why we actually created this clinical platform called Health and Longevity Clinic, where we are, building the capability to do early human clinical studies. I'm not saying trials because that's something obviously on the pathway, but we can proceed with these human case studies to actually show the efficacy in humans, because this is eventually something we all need to see.
I'm just going to give a short.
Yeah.
It's a very case by case, and as soon as something has enough good data in academia that it could possibly get through trials, it might be early enough. And some people like to get a little bit more data before they form a company, but good preclinical data or good in vitro data can be enough.
Well, let's stay on the topic of data then. Are there specific milestones or metrics that you look for, that you prioritize when you're deciding to make an investment into a company? And if so, what are they?
For example, if there's a publication that usually, not often, or not always, but often, if it's good enough for a publication, that's a good indication of readiness. And then if there's sort of preclinical data that shows efficacy in a reasonable model species, and for aging and longevity related companies, if there's any kind of lifespan extension data or connection to a clear-cut hallmark or to a pathway that is known to be related, then those are all good indications.
So how much would you value? Obviously, getting age extension data from a human population takes time. So how much do you value data relating to mice, for example, life extension in mice, and extrapolating that to a human population, obviously in a shorter time frame?
Yeah, I tend to focus on rejuvenation, so I'm not as interested in the lifespan extension, but I do think that if there is lifespan extension in worms or mice, that it's a good sign that at least something that's a core aging pathway is being engaged. So it's certainly good enough, but then you want to look at whether or not it's actually going to translate to efficacy in a particular disease that's likely the first indication.
And answering your previous question, I think as a general seed fund, we have one investment committee and we look at all the companies the same. Every company has to have the potential to return the entire fund, and the way we evaluate it is A, how big can it be if it works? Second is what's the defensible, magical, differentiated technology? And third, the quality of the founders. And my critique for longevity companies is two things. One is the lack of scientifically valid things to do, because talk to any rich person, they would love to live longer. And I think the field, because of lack of basic science and funding, is just lacking with the basic things to do. And every time there was new paradigm like partial reprogramming or senolytics, you saw a lot of companies, a lot of investment around that idea, even when it was very early and unproven. And the second problem, I think, is what I called fake longevity indications. Because aging still is not a disease, that's what the FDA said, so you have to find an indication to go after. So people go for things like osteoporosis of the knee, where it's not a drug for osteoporosis of the knee, it's a longevity drug that might help also that. But then the signal is not as high as a drug just for that. So it's hard to get approval. So you need to really thread the needle where you have like scientifically valid things you can go after and a path to create real therapies on the way to the big vision. And I can give some examples later.
Very good. We had, Omri, you had mentioned before the notion of focusing, and I thought it was very succinctly worded, the four different categories, if you will, of sort of promise. And you had spoken about tissue regeneration, we'll call it just replacement therapy in general, whether it's at the tissue level or subcellular level or any place in between. I'd like to come back to that, Omri, but in the meantime, Petr and Karl, are there any particular subsectors of the longevity industry that you're more focused on than others, and if so, why?
I have 3 or 4 that I like best. I like senolytics. I think the data on senescent cells is very compelling, and I think killing them is the best approach. I like epigenetic reprogramming. I think that there's just clear-cut cases that we're going to be able to make cells younger without dedifferentiating them, and I think that there clearly are going to be alternatives to Yamanaka factors, and we're already some of the companies are already finding those. I like the secretions from stem cells. I think there's lots of science showing that the stem cells themselves, their benefit is mostly mediated by the secretions that they send off after they're implanted before they die. And there's now companies that are bringing forward the secretions themselves as products. So those are my favorite 3. There's others like atherosclerosis reversal, but let's go to Petr.
Yeah, so we are now much more focused on what we call advanced therapies. The therapies or the approaches where we can actually expect like a more dramatic effects. So not as much about small molecules or definitely not the supplements or even various type of platforms. So the example could be like a gene therapy, and I agree with epigenetic reprogramming because that's definitely a very promising field. Maybe with the one exception, we actually invested into delivery companies because we found that the delivery is the key issue for many startups. So, and we call it like very simply said, bad stuff out and good stuff in. So for bad stuff out, we have nanotics, right? And for good stuff in, we have a company called Racing 64 with their so-called molecular routers, which very it's like a miracle technology. But everything else is more about these advanced therapies.
Yeah, and I focus mainly on Plan A and B. So Plan A with replacement, we have a company called Renewal Bio with science fiction sounding technology. They can make human embryos from stem cells. Got to day 23, so beginning of gastrulation from IPS, or patient-derived cells, where you can get ethical, almost clones, to get young genetically identical cells and tissues out of the Weizmann Institute in Israel. We have a delivery company called Mana Bio that using AI and chemistry to create novel lipid nanoparticles to unlock delivery to different cells. We have a recent company called Permanence trying to keep the genome permanent, so reduce the burden of mutation for both disease and just healthy people. A company called Powerhouse Bio working on precision mitochondria therapies, and I can go on by on.
Can we talk? You had mentioned growing embryos from stem cells. Tell us a bit more about that. How far along is that? Where are you doing that? Did you say Israel? Pardon me.
Yeah, so the research was done in the Weizmann Institute, Professor Yaakov Chana. So he published in October 2023 on the cover of Nature, getting to day 14 from embryonic stem cells. And since then, we started the company, and we're able to get currently, as of last week, to day 23 from IPS. So the idea is you can go to patient with their informed consent, get some regular tissue, so no sperm, egg, or uterus, turn it into induced pluripotent stem cells. In our process, turn it to what we call stembroid, or stem cell-derived embryos, grow them in a bioreactor, and get young genetically identical replacement. The idea is once we get to day 28, we can get hematopoietic stem cells to renew the immune system and the blood system and to cure a bunch of real diseases, bone marrow diseases. Once we get to day 40, we can have brain tissue for stroke, we can have hepatocyte for liver diseases. Once we get to day 70, we have gonads, we can potentially produce eggs or sperm for people. But the dream if you think about the science fiction dream of the future, is like you would like to replace everything. Like, can you create a whole body ethically, scalably, and just replace everything?
I think one of me is enough, but I think that the science is nonetheless compelling. So let me ask you, that's a very interesting couple of examples there. Peter, Karl, do you have any examples of investments that you've made that are particularly exciting to you? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, I mentioned two companies. One is a company called Matrix. They are working on a mitochondria infusion. So basically how to rejuvenate and grow your mitochondria in a bioreactor and infuse it back to our bodies, which seems to be particularly a good way how to improve the health for all the people, right? So there's one. The other one is an example of a gene therapy, a company called Clotea Bio. They basically develop a way how to induce or increase the secretion of protein. The protein is one of the probably strongest longevity proteins. They use mRNA technology, so it's obviously safe, right? So we have a great results in humans already. So these are the two I'm particularly excited for.
The cloth, though, can I ask a question about that? Are you aware of other companies that are looking at this as aggressively as your company is, Peter?
Yeah, there are some companies are working on delivering the protein itself, in various forms, which is not as easy because there's a half time of like 6 hours, so it's not probably feasible unless otherwise it will be already on the market for the past 10 years. There are other companies, I know even Minicircle is here probably. They do AAV technology, which is more, let's say, kind of semi-permanent change. So that's probably the alternative.
And what does, if I could ask one more follow-up question, tell us a bit more about the clothoprotein. Is it how prevalent is it in the body in the absence of amplification?
Right. Clothoprotein is as many other examples, something we lose over the as we age. So there is certain value when we are born. It's like extremely high. When we are newborn, it's relatively high. If we are young, if someone is like a super athlete in his 20s, the value is like 3,000 picograms per milliliter. But typically, most of you will have like 700, 800 picograms per milliliter. But that's something, right? So we see, what we see in obviously there was a lot of experience in animals, but we see this changes in humans. If we induce the level, it triggers a lot of downstream changes. The clothoprotein is more like a master regulator of many things, hormones, metabolism. Even there is a kind of a effect on various other factors which are then targeting brain. So we see that cognitive improvements are coming from that. So we are still investigating all these effects after the therapy, but it seems kind of miraculous.
So, asking for some examples of our favorite companies is like asking for which of your children are the favorites. So, of course, the answer to which children are my favorites are
That's what makes the question so interesting, Karl, is
right.
how you answer it.
Right. So the answer, of course, is the ones that are in the room. So, I love platform companies rather than single asset companies, and two of the most amazing platforms in the sector are in the room, and that's Nanotics, which Peter mentioned also earlier, which can remove soluble factors without touching the membrane-bound versions, and Gordian, which has an amazing platform for in vivo discovery screening, and both are already just doing amazing things. And we also heard from Reason yesterday, who's got an amazing ability to reverse the top killer disease of every human, the atherosclerosis. And then I mentioned some of my favorite areas, and the first one I mentioned was Senolytics, and Rubido is here, and Rubido's prodrug platform to slice and dice different kinds of senescent cells and get rid of them is amazing. And they've got already a giant deal with a giant skincare company, and they'll probably enter a clinic relatively soon. They're executing really well, and they're one of the few companies to get money from the for-profit arm of Evolution. Those are all great, and none of the companies in the stem cell secretion space are here, and none of the company. Sorry, I almost forgot. In the reprogramming space, Turn Bio is here, and so Turn is taking some of the work from Stanford's Vittorio Sebastiani lab and using a Yamanaka cocktail and bringing that to market quickly.
So I have
Very
two
exciting.
boys and a girl. So when she asks who's my favorite, I tell her she's my favorite daughter. So that's it.
I'm going to aim the next one at you, Omri, on that note. How do changing to a bigger picture perspective for a moment, there's a lot of volatility, some would say, in the global markets today, things in general. And the question here is, how do macroeconomic trends affect funding availability in this space in particular?
Look, to be honest,
yeah.
and I think a lot of people in the room knows that, it's a crappy biotech market. It's been a while. It's been crappy for 2 years, and the problem, we have this huge overinvestment and a bubble during the COVID era, and we're still kind of, living through the hangover of that period. So what I see, at least in Silicon Valley, I think seed are still fine. And again, we're a general seed fund, so we get to see the entire gamut. And it's kind of frustrating for me as a bio guy, where we have this AI kids drop out of college, went to YC, and they are raising $5 million at 100 pre. And then I have a group of Nobel Prize winning coming out of Stanford, kind of raising, 5 at 5, And the gamut is really, and they are trying to kind of save the world, and they have this bullshit whatever application that nobody cares about. And it's very frustrating, but I think we've been through ups and downs. I think as long as you have real value, and I think our space have real enduring value, you'll be able to fundraise. And it's not easy. I think the main problem is not seed right now. It's more the money you need to go to the clinic, because in bio, the problem is nobody really knows until you have clinical data. And the East Coast, the way they do it is they give you enough money to go to the clinic, tranched at 5 pre, so they give $70 million at 5 pre, where the inventors, the founders, own nothing. They're just an employee of the company, which is not the West Coast approach. And for the West Coast approach to work, where it's inventor, founder-led, and every round somebody is kind of leading the round and moving forward, we need more follow-up investors. And what we see right now is more, because usually in investment you have the brand name, you have the big blob of money of VC where you don't really care as a founder, just send them an email, hope to get money. And then you have the long tail of family offices or individuals that have money that usually when they get a deal, they ask why everybody else said no, that's how we got the deal. So that's why they invest in funds. But right now the market is open for those individuals, especially people who care about the space, to get amazing deals. And the funny thing is it's funny how you know something mentally, but it's very hard emotionally. Everybody knows that during a bubble, you should sell, you shouldn't buy. But if you look at all the funds, they invested in the bubble because everybody was getting a term sheet, everybody was getting an up round, life was so good, everybody was a winner. And now during a downturn, mentally we know that's the time to invest. You get the best deals, you invest for the market 2 years from now. But still, emotionally, it's very hard because your best founders get maybe a flat round, and it's so hard, and everybody's suffering. But you have to be a good investor. You have to think mentally, not emotionally. It's now is the time to invest.
To drive home his point about the real dearth being the later stage investors. We have a panel here. We're all the early stage, all three of us.
Yeah, maybe one comment here. So I fully agree with you. And when I see the issue, we actually know that as a VC, right? That this is exactly the time where we want to invest, right? Not the 2021. But the problem is in LPs, right? Because LPs don't want to give us the money at this time, right? So,
it reminded me where there was, because of the Liberation Day, there was a big dip in the market, and people say, buy the dip. And then the meme was, with what?
right.
I think we probably have time for one more question here, and then I want to leave a couple minutes here for the audience to ask questions if they have any. Research institutions, our law firm has set up quite a few, and they can benefit very large corporations, fortune companies partnering with public institutions or the government, but also in this type of a space where you have more emerging companies, it can be an exceedingly valuable resource to have a smaller company bring its perspective and its forward motion and its vision in partnership with the strategic, in a strategic partnership with a governmental entity or some other a university entity in order to facilitate the infrastructure and the capital to push things forward. Can you speak to your perspective on that? How much does that play into your portfolio, if at all? And if it does, can you tell us, give us some advice on pursuing those types of opportunities?
I think in bio and deep tech in general, government funding is crucial. We're talking about early stage, capital intensive effort. Many of our companies got SBIR grants. Many of our companies are applying to ARPA-Age. Every day I wake up like hoping and dreaming and praying and working that ARPA-Age will get more money and not less and focus on the right thing. And it's hard. Like on one hand, look, the US is in trouble. Like, you have a lot of debt and you have a lot, you need to cut, the budget. There is nothing to be done and people know it. But on the other hand, when you feel about the impact of our space, and we're going to talk to Congress tomorrow, like the biggest problem of the US is Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and fertility. Like longevity solve all of them. All of them. Like it should be obvious that you should put money here and not in other places. Like.
Any other thoughts on that, Peter or Karl? I think at this point, does the audience have any questions here? We'll leave a couple minutes here. Yes, please. If you could start with your name and if you represent a company, the name of your company and what it does, that'd be great.
Sure. Brandon Sassouni, CEO of Revival Bio. We're working on a pluripotent mesenchymal stem cell, which has the ability to engraft and replace any cell type throughout the body. My question was for anybody here, I know Omri, who had a specific interest in replacement, but just in general, seems like there's a lack of investment in stem cell therapeutics. Something that I noticed, which might be relevant, is that Utah State just passed also a new law in 2024 allowing for umbilical cord-derived stem cells to be administered by licensed practitioners in Utah. So you can actually maybe utilize that state now as a novel grounds for bringing forward stem cell therapeutics like the ones that we're developing. But in general, what is it that's lacking from the stem cell field? Is it engraftment? Is it something else, a potency that you haven't seen yet? Or is it difficulty to get to market because of a phase 3 acceptance requirement?
I don't know historically what the problem has been, but obviously the stem cell field has been around for a couple decades and has struggled to get through FDA with full-on regulatory approval. But one of the things that's interesting is that is now starting to change. So we've actually had a mesenchymal stem cell therapy approved at the end of last year by Mesoblast, and the year before that we had the first off-the-shelf allogeneic hematopoietic stem cell therapy approved. So potentially those, the optimistic view, those were approved for very narrow indications. They're not the kinds of things that physicians are going to start prescribing off-label quickly, but maybe that's the first couple dominoes to fall, is the optimistic view.
Yeah, I think the problem, in my opinion, is the quality of stem cells. Because people talked about IPS for a while, right? It's great. You go back to state 0, and if you can differentiate them to different cells and tissue, why should you use, like what Renewal is doing, go through an embryo with all the kind of ethical and questions around that, right? But the problem is, like, in the last 20 years, you can only differentiate a few cell types, and even those cell types, people in the know that, if you do RNA sequencing, for example, comparing those cells to natural cells, they don't look alike much. So the quality of the cell is a big deal, and like what I like about Renewal is the magic of the platform is to create these stem cell-derived embryos. Everything else is just, running on the coattails of billions of years of development and evolution to get everything perfectly differentiated. Like you get everything for free, all the cells, all the tissue, perfectly differentiated. I think if you have good cells and and again, we are here in DC where, sometimes talking about embryos is problematic, though when we publish our data, fundamental Christians that read about it actually said, we believe life begins conception, and in our process there is no conception. So we might be okay on triviality, on technicality, but yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Happy to talk.
Broadly, can you talk about your playbook of how you've gotten to know your darling portfolio companies? Like, how did you get in touch with them? How did that deal come about, et cetera?
I'm always surprised about branding is very important. We spend a lot of time to write. I write a lot about longevity, the business case of longevity. I wrote about the race to 160, where we doubled our lifespan several times from 20 to 40 to 80, and we only have one doubling to go, because if you can get to 160, you can get to whatever. And I think that really attracts the right people. They see that you think like them, and we go to a lot of conferences, we go to a lot of early stage places where this kind of, but to be honest, there is a lack of funding right now in longevity, so if you're just out there, people will find you.
So I think we're out of time here. So Dylan's giving me the yes, you're out of time. I want to say thank you, Dylan and Brenda, A4LI. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and it's a very exciting field. Look forward to meeting hopefully most or all of you. Thank you very much. Thank you to the panelists.
Thank you.